My ENGL Fireball amplifiers, so the Fireball 100 and the Fireball 25 are my workhorse amplifiers. Whatever I throw at those amplifiers, they never fail and they always sound good and they are very reliable. Now, ENGL Amplification just released this new pedal, the Fireball IR pedal. And today's question is basically, can this pedal offer me that same workhorse experience? And let's start right away with a nice and heavy demo track. Take a listen. Alright, that sounded pretty darn good. So that was my ESP-E2 Eclipse in Granite Sparkle with the EMG 57 in the bridge, straight into the ENGL Fireball IR pedal on the lead channel, so a nice and saturated high gain tone. For this demo, I turned the internal IRs off, ran it straight into the DAW where I applied my own IR. And by the way, you can get all my IRs in my web shop. I'll put a link in the description. But I will also show you guys how this pedal sounds with the built-in cabinets later in this video. Now the Fireball amplifiers, so the 100 and the 25, which are the ones that I have, as I said, they truly are workhorses. The clean channel is just wonderful. When you push the clean channel, you can get a nice vintage crunch, especially with the mid-boost function on. And then the lead channel just has all that saturated goodness. It sounds fat, it sounds tight, and it works with a really wide variety of guitars, which is kind of a rare trait. You know, not all high gain amplifiers can do an 8-string guitar, for example, without a boost, but the Fireball 100 and 25, they can do that. But they also don't sound too thin or sterile when you're using standard tuned guitars, so it's like the perfect balance. And they can really cut through the mix nicely. You know, they have a nice texture, huge chunk. I love everything about those amplifiers. And I just know that I can always rely on those amplifiers. If I need a good tone and I don't know what to use, let me grab a Fireball and my tone is good to go. So now they put the tone of the Fireball into this amp in a box style pedal, the Fireball IR. It looks nice and red, and as you can see, it's just like, you know, a compact stomp box. It's not larger than your average tube screamer or whatnot. And even though it's a compact pedal, they tried to put as much features in here as the real amplifier has. So that is really nice. So let's take a look at the features. Now we have 2 channels, just as with the real amplifier. You can switch between the channels with this foot switch over here. We have a clean channel and a lead channel, of course. Now, as I said, you can get a nice and sparkly clean tone on the clean channel, but you can also add some grit, which is something that I really like about the real Fireball amplifiers also. I like my cleans with a little bit of grit, so that the cleans are nice and compressed and not too pokey and too dynamic. And of course, when you switch to the high gain lead channel, you can get copious amounts of gain, but you can also turn down the gain for a nice middle-of-the-road dad rock tone, for example. So there's a wide range of tones in there already, but it's cool that you can switch between the channels. Now what's also nice is that the settings are saved per channel. So you can dial in the lead channel first, for example, with all the controls, then switch over to the clean channel and dial that channel in individually. And those channel settings will be saved. So when you power off the pedal and turn it back on again, those settings will remain the same until you change them. So I like that a lot. The real amplifier has one shared EQ, and this pedal basically has two EQs, so that makes it a little bit more flexible in that regard. We also have the mid boost function that you can switch on with this foot switch over here, and that adds a nice and thick mid-range, which is great for solos. Now, I'll show you this in a minute, but that means that you can basically use this pedal as a 3-channel amplifier. Have your clean channel, switch to the lead channel for a nice rhythm tone, and then for solos, you switch on the mid boost, and that will give you a nice bump through the mix because of those added mid frequencies. Now, this pedal comes preloaded with 3 IRs based on 3 ENGL cabinets, a 2x12, a 4x12, and the 4x12 XXL. But you can also connect the pedal to your computer via USB-C and then load your own IRs with the included app that you can download from the ENGL website. We also have a headphones out over here, which is very nice. So you can just use this as your rig, basically. Take it on a train or on a boat or on a Zeppelin or hot air balloon and just rock out. So that is nice. And that's not something that can be said for all amp-in-a-box style pedals. So it's nice that they did include a headphones out. In terms of the controls, we have a 3-band EQ over here, bass, middle, and treble, and then a volume and gain control here in the middle. And then over here, of course, the IR selector switch with 3 positions. And then with this little switch over here, you can bypass the IRs for if you want to go straight into a power amp, for example. So that is cool. So you can choose to go direct or go straight into a power amp or an effects return or into a clean channel or something like that. If you're going to go into a clean channel, it's going to sound different, of course, but the EQ is very responsive, so you can get a wide range of tones. You know, the bass control, for example, crank it up to get some really nice and big thump in there, or lower it if your amplifier is a bit too thick sounding in the low end, for example. So it's very flexible in that regard. Then we also have a little presence control over here to dial in the top end. You can make it sound very nice and dark or nice and sizzly up top. I like this control dialed up quite a bit, which just sounds good for me when going direct. Then next to that, we have the threshold for the noise gate. The noise gate is excellent. Of course, you can turn the noise gate on and off with this little switch over here. So that is just a welcome addition. The noise gates on the ENGL amplifiers tend to be very nice. So it's cool that they added that, you know. Anyway, so that's all the features, basically. What I'd like to do now is plug in a guitar and twist some knobs and show you guys, you know, how the controls affect the tone and show you guys some of the things that this pedal can do. Check out the different IRs and stuff. Take a listen. All right, so I'm sitting here with my Schecter Solo 2 Custom tuned to drop D, going straight into the new ENGL Fireball IR pedal, and that pedal is going straight into the DAW. So the only tone generating device that I'm using right now is this real cool pedal by ENGL. And I'm just gonna dial in some controls so you guys can hear how they affect the tone, and then also show some of the functionality, okay? Now, we're on the lead channel right now, so this is the high gain channel, obviously. And let's just start here and take a look at the tone that I've dialed in right now. So that is a nice, thick and rich tone. Let me start at the top row of the controls. So this is the bass, the middle, and the treble control. So nice 3-band EQ over here, just as with the real amplifier, of course. And let's see how those controls affect the tone, starting with the bass control. It's at around noon right now, but let's take a listen to what happens if we dial it down. So that bass control is quite powerful, which is handy because, you know, that means that this pedal is quite flexible with whatever situation you put it in. So if it's straight into the DAW, like right now, or into a mixer, or into a tube amplifier, sometimes you need a little bit of extra low-end oomph there, and this control definitely provides. Now let's try the middle control and see what that does. So again, that's a lot of range on that control, and that's great. You know, if you're using this in front of a very scooped sounding amplifier, for example, you can just bump up those mids and get a more rich tone. Of course, we're also going to talk about the mid boost feature in a second, but first, let's try the treble control and see how that affects the tone. Now with my normal Fireball amplifiers, I do like to crank this control up quite a bit to open up the amplifier. Let's see how this one affects the tone. So if we turn it down, it sort of scoops out the sound. Interesting, right? Let's pump it back up. So it definitely also adds some mid-range in there. I like it at around 3 o'clock or so. So that is a nice, chunky, modern, high-gain tone right there. I love it. Now, of course, we also have this presence control over here. Let's dial that in and see how that affects the tone. So you can really darken up the pedal with that control. I like it at around 3 or 4 o'clock-ish. Sounds nice and open and bright. So that is cool. So those are some nice tone shaping controls to have. Of course, we also have the gain control, which we should not forget. Let's dial that in. So that is a nice crunchy tone. I had it at noon just now, which is a good sweet spot, I think. And since we already have a lot of gain at noon, imagine what we can do by boosting up that control even further. So yeah, that is a lot of gain, right? Let's go back to around noon, because that's just a good sweet spot, at least for this guitar and for my taste. And just as with the real Fireball, this pedal is equipped with the mid boost function, which boosts the mids, right? And that can be very useful for solos and stuff. So let's say that this is our rhythm tone. See what happens when we enable the mid boost. So that is actually a very good solo boost in itself. And then when you're done with your solo, you just go back to the non-mid boosted tone. And you're back in great modern rhythm territory. So I love this mid boost a lot. It's quite powerful. And of course, we also have the built-in noise gate, just as with the real amplifier, which is very effective. It's on right now. You can turn it off by pressing this switch. And then this control over here is the threshold. So you can set that quite drastically. I prefer to set it a little bit lower. But it's very nice that they added that too. Now, of course, we also have 3 stock ENGL IRs. The top position is an ENGL 2x12 cabinet, which sounds like this. Set it to the middle and you switch over to a 4x12 cabinet. Which is a bit more scooped sounding and a little bit more sizzly up top. And then the bottom position is based on the 4x12 XXL cabinet, which the pedal is actually resting on right now in my studio. And that one sounds like this. I prefer the top one. But of course, you can also load your own IRs into this pedal. But for the purpose of this demonstration, I figured I'd show you the stock cabinets. Now, just as with the real Fireball, this pedal has 2 channels. Right now we are on the lead channel, and when we press this switch over here, we are on the clean channel. And the cool thing about this pedal is that the EQ settings will be stored to each channel individually. So say we want to adjust the EQ for this tone, or the gain for that matter, or the volume. Say we want to add a little bit of mids and some bass and maybe some treble. You know what? Say I want to have a nice and crunchy tone, because the clean channel on the Fireball always lets you add a nice amount of grit. So now we have a nice vintage crunch tone, but when we switch back to the lead channel, the settings that were dialed in for this channel will remain the same. So that is cool. The real amplifier doesn't do that because it has a shared EQ. But for this pedal, each channel has its own EQ basically, which is nice. So let's lower the volume a little bit for the clean channel. So if you sort of take into account that the mid boost kind of is an extra channel, you know, your solo lead channel, then you could use this pedal, or you could view it as a 3-channel amplifier. So clean channel or slight crunch, modern high gain rhythm channel, and then a lead channel. And of course, you can also enable the mid boost for the clean channel if you so desire. Which makes the clean channel even more, let's say, AC/DC-like. So yeah, that is a quite powerful pedal, as you can see. The EQ controls are very responsive. There's plenty of gain on tap, even for the clean channel. The noise gate is nice. You know, the switching options with the mid boost is really nice as well. So it's a small and compact little pedal, but it does quite a lot. This could be your entire amp rig, basically. So again, you could have a clean tone, a rhythm tone, and then a lead tone with the mid boost. Excellent stuff. All right, so that's the ENGL Fireball IR pedal. this red little monster over here. I like it a lot. I like the functionality, as you just saw. I like how you can use this as a 3-channel amp pedal, basically. That makes it quite powerful. And the fact that you can store individual EQ settings for each channel is also really nice. I like the fact that you can load your own IRs into this pedal. I think that the stock IRs are okay. They're pretty good, but they're not amazing. So personally, I preferred loading in my own to get a little bit more of a balanced sound. I think that they sound a little bit too drastically different from one another, but you can definitely make them work. The noise gate is cool. You know, the mid boost is wonderful for those solo leads. So I think that this is a great pedal. Does it have that organic tube tone of a real ENGL Fireball amplifier? I don't think it gets, you know, up there. It doesn't sound exactly the same. Of course, this is a digital pedal, you know. It's an amp modeler, basically. But I think that they did a great job, and it's a lot of fun to play. It has plenty of gain on tap too, so it's just a lot of fun and very compact. So do I recommend getting this pedal if you're looking for a nice and versatile amp-in-a-box style pedal with that signature ENGL sound? Hell yeah! You can't really go wrong with this thing. If you want that true ENGL Fireball experience, of course I would recommend getting the big or the smaller tube amplifier, because they're just very hard to beat. That organic tube tone is magic, you know, and I love tube amplifiers so much. But I also think that it's great when they're offering like smaller and more affordable, you know, versions of that tone, if you will. And again, they did a great job, and it's a really, really fun pedal. Of course, you can get this pedal at my affiliate links for Thomann and Sweetwater. If you get something there, it really helps out the channel at no additional cost for you. I'd really appreciate that. Also, please hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. That also really helps the channel out. I'd appreciate it. Let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on this little pedal. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you very, very soon. Cheers!